The Royals make a surprise September call-up in Carter Jensen. What do we make of it? We'll tell you in this edition of Locked On Royals.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back with a Monday edition of Locked On Royals in the Locked On Podcast Network. As always, I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. That is at JOHNYJ_15. You also can listen to us on wherever you catch your podcast. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe. For you first-time listeners wondering how this channel works, I will be bringing you episodes Monday through Friday, 30-minute episodes in length, and Chance Lebo will bring you the Locked On Royals postcast, which after each and every Royals game, he'll go live for about 15 to 20 minutes, giving you all of his thoughts. Now, before we dive into today's packed episode, I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner, and visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. We're going to open the show with really me calling myself out a little bit and saying where I was wrong. Because going back to Friday, or I guess I should say Saturday, with our mailbag Saturday, which had to be pushed back one day due to technical difficulties, I had asked multiple times who the September call-ups would be and if Carter Jensen would be one of those players. And I said point blank, I don't see it. I don't see a reality in which the Royals rush another one of their top prospects up to the big leagues if he's not even going to be playing every single day. My guess and my official take that I've had multiple times throughout the season was that Carter Jensen can finish out the year strong in AAA. He can go to big league camp and fight for a spot next February and March. And then probably around maybe May or June, you can make that decision to call him up. Because I feel this is somebody that is going to be your catcher of the future. And if you call him up and he's just sitting the bench as a backup, maybe it doesn't make as much sense. But the Royals and those out there that said Carter Jensen was going to be a September call-up, I give you your credit. I was wrong. You were right. And Carter Jensen's going to get a chance in the final month of the season to make an impact. And the Royals would not be calling him up to be the backup catcher, what Luke Maile is doing. And the Royals are going to be keeping 3 catchers on the roster, which we'll talk about in the second segment this morning. And that's because Jonathan India is going on the injured list with a wrist sprain. Maybe we'll see him back this year. It's retroactive to August 30th. So you're talking about getting him back maybe mid to the final 10 days of September. We got to see how he rehabs a little bit, though, and how he starts to feel. But as for the catchers on the roster, look, Salvador Perez has been well below average since Freddie Fermin was dealt. And I don't believe that's really that shocking. Freddie Fermin gave Salvador Perez the opportunity to DH a lot more, to rest up a little bit more. And we saw those numbers really take off, especially that month, or it might have been a week or two, where he went from, I want to say like 15 home runs to 24 or 25, like a 1-month stretch or maybe a couple week stretch. And to have that rest at his age is so important in the last month of the season. It's not to say that Salvador Perez is not going to be playing, every day. He probably still will be, but he won't be behind the plate every single day. And that's what we've seen since Freddie Fermin was dealt. You're not going to put Luke Maile in the lineup 4 to 5 days out of the week. You are going to have Salvador Perez behind the plate, and you are going to DH somebody else. And with Carter Jensen, he's going to be coming up here to DH and catch. And I would imagine on days that he's not catching, he could be DHing. Maybe he's one of those players where you just see how he fares early on in the first week, where, if he's hitting 350 in the first week, I don't care if it's a righty or a lefty on the mound. I want him either catching or I want him DHing. And I could see where some people would go, well, Jack Caglione was hitting 375, 380 before they promoted him 10 to 15 games into his AAA career. There is a little bit more of a track record for Carter Jensen in AAA. Now, Jack Caglione, after he got hurt, went back to Omaha and continued to crush. So I still stand by the point of they didn't really rush him because he was showing how beneath AAA really was for him. For Carter Jensen, He had an on-base north of 400. He was OPSing over 1,043 games for the Storm Chasers. He is 22 years old, and he just turned 22. So that's the really exciting part about it. And, the Royals have shown this new age approach of, if we feel a guy can help us out right now, we're not going to manipulate any service time here. We're not going to hold a guy back just so that he can finish the season strong and feel good about himself. And I do like that, because I took that approach of, with Cags and Jensen, they finished the year strong in AAA, and, they're hitting 300 and they're leading the team in home runs. And you just get to go into the offseason telling yourself, man, that's a lot better than going up to the big leagues and hitting 110 and being maybe a main reason why your offense struggles. I mean, for Jack Caglione, that had to be weighing on him. I mean, he's this guy looked upon as the one to get the offense going. He's the middle of the order bat the Royals had been looking for, and he just never turned into that. Then he gets hurt, he goes back to AAA, and he's shown that AAA was just easier for him, as it really should be when you're a prospect of his status. With Carter Jensen, what I love so much about his rise through the ranks is not only because he's a local kid, but he just got better each and every year. And you'd hear people talk about, well, he's got tremendous upside. And I try to be reserved with upside when it comes to prospect, because you go around, all of Twitter, you're going to have people that are very high on their own organization. And I've done that a time or two. Well, I really, really like this guy. I think that this player can be an everyday guy, maybe a future all-star, and it's just because we're a little bit more biased. And Carter Jensen was one of those guys many people that were Royals fans thought was going to be good. I mean, he wasn't drafted 10th to 15th in the draft. I mean, he was a top 3 pick in terms of rounds, not overall top 3 pick. And he had great defensive abilities. You knew the power was there, and he had a mature approach. And early on in his minor league career, I mean, he'd hit 195 to 210, but he'd have a 360 to 370 on base percentage. And you thought, man, if he can just develop that hit tool, there is something really special there, because the power is really raw. I mean, he is a bigger kid than maybe you would think he is. He's not Jack Caglione, who's 6'5", 250 pounds, but Carter Jensen's not a small kid. I've now seen him the last 2 times in Surprise, and he's only gotten bigger. And I'd imagine you go from when you're 20 years old to 22, you're going to fill out a little bit more. But the way he looked on the field with the other players, he blended in. Sometimes when I've gone out there, you'll see the obvious 20-year-old or the new draft pick where he just looks like a teenager amongst a bunch of grown men. And Carter Jensen has now had 2 years of big league camp under his belt, working with those coaches, working alongside Salvador Perez. And that's the exciting part to this, is that when the Royals made that choice, it was not to toss a bone to a kid who grew up a Royals fan of, oh, this is really awesome, we get to showcase our prospect. They're not naive like that. They put him in the big league camp because they felt he was on the cusp of becoming one of their biggest prospects and a top 100 prospect in all of baseball. And to see his swing in Surprise, to see his swing throughout the season, it's just so smooth, tons of pop off the bat. And Jack Caglione got all the praise in spring training. We were talking about how incredible it was. Everybody was gathering around for his batting practice. But Carter Jensen, at times, was doing just the same thing as Jack Caglione. In fact, I remember the furthest ball I saw hit in batting practice in the first couple days when I was down in Surprise was Carter Jensen's. I mean, it cleared the wall in right center field by 40 to 50 feet. I mean, it was absolutely tagged. And the year before that, there is a training facility behind one of the fields in Surprise that he had a ball on top of the facility, which is about 50, 60, 70 feet back of where the fences are. I mean, it's a little bit of distance there, and he hit the top of it. And that was when he was 20 years old. So this type of vision the Royals have had for him, I feel has always been there, and great for him that he's getting called up now. It is September call-ups. I didn't think it was going to be possible. I am so glad that I was wrong in that, because he's going to get his chance to play. And I would imagine that tomorrow night, when the Royals are taking on the Angels, he's making his debut. And I would imagine for the rest of this homestand, we're going to see a lot of Carter Jensen. We're also going to see a lot of Jack Caglione, and we're probably going to see a little bit of Lewin, who impressed in the one inning he threw for the Royals earlier last month. So the Royals did make 3 roster moves right before I recorded this episode, though they did tease it a little bit yesterday when saying who they were going to call up. Carter Jensen activated. He's going to KC. Jack Caglione, he is off the injured list. He is in KC. Lewin, he is making his return to KC as well. And Jonathan India is going on the injured list. Let's talk about those flurry of roster moves next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can catch us on wherever you listen to your podcast. 2 sponsors I want to tell you about before we dive into our second segment, beginning with Upside. Hey, Locked On Royals fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind and get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code SEASON and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already need. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card from Amazon or other brands. Don't let this other offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code SEASON for a limited 25 cent per gallon bonus, and that's promo code SEASON. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. I also want to tell you about FanDuel and our title sponsor today. The NFL season is almost here. It'll begin on Thursday, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And I'll go for Thursday's game and Friday's game here. I am going to take the over on total yards by Jalen Hurts. The Eagles, the reigning Super Bowl champions, will be taking on the Dallas Cowboys, who have been all over the media in the last week, trading Micah Parsons and giving out a lengthy extension as well to Deron Bland. So you've got quite the showdown and quite the rivalry game for Thursday, but I'm going to go with the quarterback on the Eagles side, taking the over there on total yards. As for the Chiefs, I am going to take the over on receiving yards for Xavier Worthy. Think he has a really big game. Rashee Rice not going to be available. That would then put Worthy, in my opinion, as their true number 1 wide receiver. Next part of today's show is going to be a continuation of what we just talked about. Carter Jensen, he gets the call to Kansas City, but he's not the only one coming back to Kansas City. Or I should say going to Kansas City, because this is Carter's first time in the big leagues. This will be the second go-around for Jack Caglione and Lewin. The one thing that crossed my mind when I saw Jensen and Caglione get called up is, how is this going to work, right? How is this lineup going to work with 2 young prospects like that? One of them is a right fielder and first baseman. One of them is a catcher, and you have 3 catchers on the roster. My first thought was, how often can Mike Yastrzemski play left field? Because if Carter Jensen's going to catch, it's kind of a domino effect here. If Carter Jensen is going to catch, Salvador Perez is going to be DHing, unless you just give him that complete off day, which with 26-ish games to go, I'm not really sure that is the best method in putting him on the bench. I mean, Salvador Perez still is close to 30 home runs. He's a seasoned vet. We'll see how Carter Jensen looks, but to give him a complete off day for a rookie in Jensen and Jack Caglione, who was hitting under 150 before he got put on the injured list, doesn't feel like the best lineup possible. For the future, it absolutely would be. If the Royals were 8 games out of a playoff spot, then yes, we're resting Salvador Perez. It's Cags and Jensen in the lineup pretty much every single day. But on nights where Carter Jensen is catching and Jack Caglione is another option you can start and Salvy's DHing, well, where is Jack Caglione going? If it's against a right-hander, you're going to have Mike Yastrzemski out there. Mike Yastrzemski's been one of this team's best hitters since the deadline. And as easy as it would say, or I could say, we'll move him over to left field. Mike Yastrzemski's barely played any left field. Really, he's been a center fielder and a right fielder, and 85 to 90% of the time in his career, he's been a right fielder. Jack Caglione is not a right fielder. Yes, he plays there. Yes, he looks smooth from time to time. Mike Yastrzemski is the much better option in right field. I mean, you just go back to the games where Cags was in right and what it's looked like since Yaz has been in right. Totally different. And how he tracks the ball, how he gets the ball into the infield. It's nothing against Cags. He's a first baseman playing right field. But that also factors in here to this decision to bring up both Jensen and Cags. Is Cags not going to be playing every single day? I mean, we heard so often from J.J. Picollo and Matt Quatrero, hey, the roster's different. We have 2 new outfielders, technically 3 if you want to count Adam Frazier and his flexibility. You've got Grichuk, Yaz, and Frazier that have all been playing the outfield. You still have Nick Lofton off the bench. Tyler Tolbert's going to be on this team for the month of September. And for Caglione, he's not playing first base, not with Vinny in the way that he's been playing over the last month to month and a half. Carter Jensen, he can only catch or DH. So I do wonder how often the Royals are really going to be able to get those 2 in the lineup at the same time. And if they feel that Yaz can play left field, then okay. Because I do feel that Yaz can make that transition to left field much easier than Jack Caglione can. I would like to see Jack Caglione just DHing. And when he's not DHing, maybe you do put him in right field there. Maybe he does get a shot at first base, but Vinny's going to be playing every single night. Salvador Perez might have an off day or 2 in the final month of the season, but I anticipate him being out there a lot. But maybe it's a Carter or Jack type of thing, where when Salvi's catching, that's when Jack Caglione's in the lineup. When Carter's catching, that's when Carter's in the lineup and Salvi's going to be DHing. That would be my prediction for it. Because it is a bit of a logjam now, and that's the way it usually is in September. You're not going to have the perfect, everybody's got this spot, and there's the backup to this player. No, the Royals mix and match a lot of different guys with certain matchups, and I don't know if the Angels have announced their starter for tomorrow, but if it's a righty, I feel that Carter Jensen's going to be making his debut, and we'll see if the Royals try to squeeze Jack Caglione in there. I mean, he played left field a few times in Northwest Arkansas and Omaha, but there's not a lot of familiarity there. And you've already made him learn right field. I would rather see Yaz in left field, but he also doesn't play it a lot either. He can handle it because he's an established big league outfielder where Caglione's still trying to get his feet wet. I'm just very interested in how Matt Quatrero is going to be handling those lineups moving forward. September is a little bit more difficult. You got more guys on the roster and more bats to put in there. We also saw Luinder Avila get the call, and I wanted to tie Stephen Kolek into this as well. Stephen Kolek had a great Royals debut. On Saturday, I was out there Saturday and Sunday. Kolek goes out there and tosses a quality start. And this is coming off an outing in which Seth Lugo was not good whatsoever. Threw nearly 90 to 95 pitches in less than 4 innings. I mean, it was an absolute disaster, and it's been a disaster, just calling it as I see it, for Seth Lugo since he signed the extension. But Stephen Kolek, he has to make the start. They wanted to give Noah Cameron a little extra rest there. Michael Wacha on the paternity list. He came off of that on Sunday. But Stephen Kolek gets the ball on Saturday, and he needs to give the Royals length. You're playing a great team. You need to go at least 5, and he goes 6 and holds the Tigers to 1 run. It's the only game the Royals win in that series, and that was great to see. I mean, with what Ryan Bergert's done since the Fermin deal, you've wondered about Stephen Kolek. He wasn't great in AAA, but we talked about that, is that Stephen Kolek had bad numbers in AAA in El Paso for the Padres and then had fine numbers in the big leagues. And then, lo and behold, bad numbers for Omaha. He's walking the world down there, and he comes up, throws 6 innings, a 1-run ball, and doesn't walk anybody. He's a pitch-to-contact type of guy, and I would love to see him in Kansas City again before the season comes to a close. Here's the hang-up, though. And we did discuss this on our Mailbag Saturday. Stephen Kolek, because he was sent back down yesterday, has to stay in the minor leagues for a minimum amount of days. And that would be around, I want to say like September 7th, 8th, or 9th, when he could return to Kansas City, which is why Avila got the call. If Stephen Kolek was not called upon to make that start on Saturday and Noah Cameron made the start, I feel that instead of Avila, it would have been Kolek. But, Avila gives them a little length out of the bullpen. He's got power stuff, which Kolek really doesn't. And I hope that we get to see an extended look at Lewin Avila at some point. I hope in the first game against the Angels, Michael Lorenzen throws well, the bats come alive, and it's 10-1 by the sixth inning, and you're able to turn it over to Avila for a couple. This is somebody that I feel can be a great piece to that bullpen moving forward. And Stephen Kolek, if that's all we get for him or from him in Kansas City in 2025, at least it's a quality start. And we can go into spring training next year knowing that he can compete for one of those spots in the rotation or one of the spots in the bullpen. And lastly, Jonathan India going on the injured list. He's just had a rough year in terms of being banged up. I feel that he's played through a lot of different injuries. I thought yesterday when he wasn't in the lineup against Skubal and Michael Massey was out there, though Massey did get a hit off Skubal in his first at bat, I found that odd, where you usually load up the lineup with righties against Skubal and India's not out there. He was in the dugout. I could see that, but he's got a wrist sprain. It's retroactive to August 30th, so he's got to be on the injured list for a chunk of time here. Maybe that's the last we see of Jonathan India for 2025, and I don't really know what the plan will be in the offseason just yet. But Michael Massey and Adam Frazier, they're going to be getting the reps at second base moving forward. Let's take our final break at the show. When we come back, let's talk about this final month of the season, where the Royals stand, and what it's going to take to grab that final playoff spot. That's next on Locked On Royals. You are tuning to Locked On Royals on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can listen to us on wherever you download your podcast. Two things I want to tell you about, beginning with our listener survey. We have an important request, and Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey, and you can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks, as always, for helping us out. Also want to tell you about PrizePicks. And with football being back, PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can take your turn into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. We have 1 month left in the regular season, and for many of you listening, you're hoping that this is not the last month we talk about baseball and the Royals playing each and every night. Because if they don't make that final push, they make up these 3 games in the final month, then we're going to be done talking about the 2025 Royals come, October 1st. And, we're still going to have our podcast throughout the fall and throughout the winter. That's what doesn't change here. We give you episodes 5 days a week, really until January or February. And then we have maybe a month and a half where we do 3 episodes a week. But don't worry. Royals talk is going to continue year round, basically. You're never going to have to worry about that from our end. But in this final month, we need to see if the Royals really do have it in them. And we did multiple episodes over the last couple of weeks. Do they have a run in them? What is it going to take? And, so often we said, well, this series is one they got to have, right? This is the series they need to make some moves. And the probability, the odds, the percentages, they're going to tell you the Royals are not making the postseason. They are still in the hunt. And as I've tried to say before, it's fun to have meaningful September baseball. It'd be a different thing right now if the Royals were doing what the Orioles were, where they're 61 and 76. They're coming off back-to-back postseason appearances, and they've really been out of the hunt for multiple months. In fact, with their sluggish start to the season, the Orioles have been down and out for all of 2025. I mean, if it was something like that, what are we really talking about today? Yeah, September call-ups and what the future could be looking like. But for the Royals, at least we get to talk about a final month where it matters. And these next 6 games are vitally important. And really every series the rest of the way is vitally important for the Royals. They dropped the series to the Tigers. I'm sure that game on Friday stings a lot more than the game on Sunday. When you go in facing Tarek Skubal, you're not bookmarking that as a win or when you have a good chance of winning. Friday, they had a 3-0 lead, and they blew it. Seth Lugo was not on his game, and the offense didn't score after the first inning. Even if they won 2 of 3 against Detroit, you still have work to do. There is still work to be done. And I look at the American League wildcard race. You've got New York now atop of the wildcard spots here. They're 76-61. Boston is 76-62, a half game back of them. And then you've got Seattle, who's 73-64. They are only 2 games back of Houston for the top spot in the AL West. And then Texas, yesterday, leapfrogged the Royals. They just seem to never go away either. And they've won 5 in a row. They're 8-2 in their last 10, though they have multiple key players on the injured list. So we'll see how long Texas can keep that up. They're 71-67. The Royals 70-67, 3 games back. Cleveland right behind them at 68-67. And Tampa Bay not done just yet. They're 67-69 at 5.5 back, and they just won 3 in a row as well. So in this final month, what is it going to take for the Royals? Number one, they're going to need to play their best month of baseball. We can try to get very fine with it and say, well, they need to go, 15 and let's say 10, like 15 and 10 the rest of the way. That would put them 8 games over 500. I don't believe 85-77 gets it done. You look at the teams on their schedule. You've got the Angels for 3. You've got the Twins for 3. Then you've got a very difficult stretch where you go on the road to face Cleveland. You go on the road to face Philadelphia. You host Toronto. You host Seattle. Then you wrap up the year on the road in Anaheim and then on the road in Sacramento against the Athletics. So 6 easy games, then a stretch of 3 series where it's going to be really tough. You got 2 road series in that, and then you wrap up the year against a lackluster Angels team and an A's team that doesn't really have the record, but we know how threatening that offense can be, especially when they're playing in Sacramento in that minor league ballpark. But I believe they got to play their best baseball. I feel they have to be the best team in the American League to really make things happen. And I know that's a bit of a stretch, and maybe I'm being too aggressive with that type of take, but we saw that with the Tigers last year, and they actually ended the month of August under 500. So they absolutely had to play their best baseball and really better baseball than anybody else in the sport if they wanted to make the postseason, and they barely did. For the Royals, it's not as drastic, but I feel if you really want to lock it in, if you want to have those playoff odds over 50% at some point, you got to be really good over the last 25 games. I mean, you got to find a way in this homestand or the last 6 games of this homestand to sweep one of these teams and take 2 of 3 from the other. And that all begins tomorrow. I mean, you've got an Angels team that's 64-72. They're not awful, but they've not been good since the trade deadline. They tried to make a couple of moves, but overall, the Angels do not have a good rotation. They do have some threats in the lineup, but this is a team playing them at home and playing them at the end of the year. You need to win the series in both of them. And then against Minnesota, they got you in Minnesota when they took 2 of 3. They walked you off in the series finale, but it's a Twins team that is a shell of its former self. I mean, it is no longer a Minnesota Twins team that you should feel is even equal to you talent-wise, record-wise, anything like that. Yes, they'll probably face Joe Ryan. He threw on Sunday. I'll need to see actually if the Twins play today, which they do. That might mean that they could have Joe Ryan throwing in their series on Thursday. We'll see, though, because it is a 4-game series for them against the White Sox. Joe Ryan threw yesterday, so maybe that means on Friday Joe Ryan will be throwing against the Royals. Still, if you want to be a playoff team, you're going to have those games against good opponents and good arms that you can beat. And in the last 25 games, I'd like to see something along the lines of 17-8. I'd like to see something, even better than that, right? If you have this team at 70-67, you've got a Mariners team that has 6 more road games left on their 9-game road trip. The Guardians begin a 7-game road trip. The Rangers have the Diamondbacks and the Astros this week. You got to make up some ground here because you're not going to have that type of relief a week from now. A week from now, you'll be in Cleveland and you'll be taking on the Guardians, a team that you just never seem to fare that well against in Cleveland. I know last year they had the winning record against them, but overall, I mean, go the last 10 years. This is a Guardians franchise, a Cleveland franchise that has the Royals number. But if you can go into this 6-game stretch and go 5-1, and now you are 75-68, which we kind of put as that target mark of going, I guess that would have been 6-3, right? 6-3 on this 9-game homestand. You take that. 75-68 still keeps you in the hunt. And whatever happens with Seattle and the Rangers and Cleveland, we'll just wait to find that out on Sunday. But if you go 5-1, that puts a lot of pressure on them to play good baseball in these next 2 series. But for this final month, yes, I want to see what Carter Jensen has. Yes, I want to see if Jack Caglione has figured some things out, has tweaked his swing a little bit. I want to see the best version of this team possible. And they're going to be more rested. That's probably the best news here. The bullpen gets an extra arm. The bench gets 2 extra bats here. It's great news for the Royals to feel rested, because I do feel that in the last week or so, we've seen that fatigue setting in a little bit. They got the off day today, can relax. 6 more home games, more reinforcements on the way, but you got to play your best baseball. 3 games is not a lot, as we saw. I mean, on Saturday, they were 2 games back, and the Mariners were losing in the series finale to Cleveland, and the Royals were still tied with the Tigers in like the 3rd inning yesterday. And I'm starting to think the Guardians can hold on. Yes, the Guardians are right on your heels, but you'd be a game back of Seattle going into the off day. That's how quickly things can change. But if you want to make it much easier on yourself, you just got to keep stacking wins. And I know a lot of you have just commented that. Just win. Just keep stacking these wins, stacking series wins, and it's going to put more and more pressure on those teams that you're chasing. Well, that's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jack Johnson. It's another big moment on Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside 2-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Tomorrow, we're going to preview this upcoming series against the Los Angeles Angels, and we're going to dive a little bit more into some targets for the offseason. With it being the final month of regular season, there's nothing wrong with looking ahead to what the couple next months have for us. But we'll dive into some free agent talk. We'll talk about the Angels series, but we'll do all of that tomorrow when we see you next. You take it easy, Kansas City.